Imagine, for a moment, a world where a group of humans, just ordinary people, suddenly gain the extraordinary ability to control time, not just to travel through it, but to manipulate it. They can pause it, rewind it, fast forward it, or even stop it entirely. What happens next? At first, it's nothing more than a subtle shift. They don't broadcast their powers to the world, it's choosing instead to keep it to themselves, using it privately for their own benefit. But over time, the true extent of their abilities begins to unfold. And with it, a world of possibilities and dangers opens up. At first, the changes are small. A man in a car accident pauses time just long enough to avoid the crash, rewinding to a moment earlier when he saw the red light. A woman rewinds just a few minutes to prevent a misunderstanding with a colleague. These small actions don't alter much. They're barely noticeable, but with each use, the Chronomancers, this group of people with time-manipulating powers, realize the immense potential of what they've become capable of. They could erase mistakes, avoid dangers, or even change the course of personal events that would otherwise be out of their control. In fact, they could change entire timelines, rewriting history in an instant. As they experiment with their new abilities, the power grows. No longer are they simply correcting small mistakes. Now they can influence larger events. A moment of history they don't like? It's erased. A disaster they want to prevent? Stopped before it happens. A political decision they don't agree with? Reversed. The temptation is intoxicating. For the first time, the Chronomancers realize that they could reshape the world. They could save lives, prevent wars, and avert environmental catastrophes. They could control the course of human civilization, and for many, that seems like a dream come true. But as they begin to reshape the world, they quickly realize that with great power comes great responsibility and unforeseen consequences. Every change they make in time creates ripples, affecting things in ways they can't predict. Saving one life might cause a tragedy elsewhere. Stopping one disaster could lead to another. The law of unintended consequences becomes their constant companion. A person saved in one timeline might grow to become a leader whose decisions alter the course of history, leading to new conflicts and problems that never would have existed had they not been saved in the first place. As the group continues to manipulate time, tensions begin to rise within their ranks. Some Chronomancers want to act cautiously, using their powers only when absolutely necessary, worried about the cost of too much intervention. They recognize the dangers of playing with time, understanding that each action they take could create a future far worse than the one they're trying to avoid. However, are more eager to intervene. The temptation to change history for the better, at least according to their own view of what better means, becomes overwhelming. They start to think that perhaps it's their duty to make the world better, to mold it according to their ideals, and in their pursuit of control, they begin to lose sight of the very thing that made them cautious to begin with. Time is a force beyond their complete understanding. As the group becomes divided, the consequences of their actions start to stack up. Small changes spiral out of control. Time itself begins to break down. The Chronomancers begin to experience the unstable nature of what they've done. They see glimpses of alternate timelines, fragmented versions of reality, where events that never should have happened are now taking place, lives that had never imagined. are now entwined with their own actions. Time, it turns out, is far more fragile than they ever anticipated. They quickly come to realize that their power has put them in a dangerous position. While they have the ability to change the world, they cannot foresee all the ramifications of their actions. Each change they make creates a new set of problems that they can't fix, because by the time they realize what went wrong, the damage has already been done. The more they try to control time, the more they find that they're losing control. They become prisoners of their own power. Governments around the world begin to take notice of the strange, inexplicable events happening in the world. People are beginning to notice patterns of reality bending. Rumors spread of individuals who seem to be everywhere at once, of people who mysteriously avoid accidents, or of situations that seem to unfold exactly as they should, only to reverse themselves moments later. Governments scramble to track down these chronomancers, fearful of the immense power they hold. How do you control a force that can manipulate time itself? How do you fight against something that can simply erase its enemies or rewind events to their advantage? The fear spreads, and with fear comes desperation. Other groups begin to seek out the Chronomancers, hoping to harness their powers for their own ends. Some wish to use time manipulation for political gain, to ensure their own dominance. Others want to weaponize it, creating armies that can never lose, wars that can be erased against time. No pun intended. Struggling to maintain control of their own abilities, they must decide whether to continue using their powers, risking even more catastrophic outcomes, or whether to relinquish their control over time, knowing that doing so might undo everything they've changed for the better. In the end, the question becomes clear. Is it worth it to try and control time? They may have the power to change the world, to fix what's broken and to make things right. But with each new manipulation, they are forced to face the reality that there is no such thing as a perfect timeline. The more they try to fix things, the more they find that time itself begins to slip away from them, unraveling faster than they can manage. In the end, they must ask themselves, what is the price of altering time? And more importantly, what happens when the time they've been controlling finally catches up with them? Ultimately, the Chronomancers must come to understand the harsh truth. Time is not theirs to control. Time is the one thing that always moves forward, no matter how hard they try to stop it. And when you try to bend it, manipulate it, or even break it, you may find that the greatest power of all is simply learning to live within time rather than trying to master it.